All right. Okay. So we'll chant for a couple of minutes and Sonam is going to lead that. Then we'll discuss text 11 from Nectar of Instruction, which explains the glories of Radhakund. After that, we'll very briefly narrate the pastime of the appearance of Radhakund and Shyamkund. You all know the pastime, so just very briefly, just so we keep it in the context. And then we'll do something interesting. I'm going to put the picture of Radhakund on the screen. I'll share it. But I have also sent you a picture, the same picture by email about half an hour ago. So those of you who would rather have their own picture, put it on your cell phone. Or if you have any other picture of Radhakund that is more favorite of yours, use that. The idea is that we'll do Aarti. I'll do the Aarti. And very simple Aarti. Just, the lamp and the flower. That's it. And so circumambulating, so what you can do is put the picture of Radhakund and Shyamkund somewhere in the center that you can go around. So we'll go around 4 times. And that will be after the Aarti. And then we'll talk about Bahulashtami. And I'll pause for any question answers. And then we'll get back to the normal program where I'll start with chapter 85. Any questions on that? Is that clear? Is it too complex or not what you wanted to do?
All clear, Prabhuji.
Okay. All right. Then, Sonam, if I can ask you to lead the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamatra just for 2 minutes, just to get us in the right mood of surrender. And then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Sonam. That was beautiful. Thank you very much. Okay, so then I'm going to share the screen again and put the text 11 of Nectar of Instruction. And then I'll read that and just very quickly explain the little 2-minute explanation after the translation. Okay, give me 1 second, please. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see if you can see it. I can't see the whole screen. Let's see what I can do. Ashok Krishna Prabhu, the pictures are pictures of the participants are blocking part of the screen. Any idea how I see the whole screen?
What is blocking, Prabhu? The pictures?
Pictures, yeah.
You can minimize it, Prabhu.
Minimize what? Oh, that. Yes, got it. Thank you, Prabhu. You're wonderful. Thank you. Yes, I got it. Okay, so do you see it on your screen, text 11? Everyone sees this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So Krishna yo chai pranay vasita preyasibhyo apiradha kundam chasya munibhir abhitas tadrik ev vyadhai yat preshthair api alam asulabham kim punar bhakti bhajan tat premedam sakrat api sarah snatur aviskaroti. The translation is, of the many objects of favored delight and of all the lovable damsels of Vrij Bhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love. And in every respect, her divine kunda is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kund is very rarely attained, even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. So this is the last verse in Nectar of Instruction. Just before that, it explains that Dwarka Puri is superior to Vaikuntha Dham because Krishna lived there and there was some Madhurya there. Mathura Dham is superior to Dwarka Dham because Krishna appeared in Mathura. And there's little more of Madhurya there. Vrindavan Dham is superior to Mathura Dham because Krishna did his childhood and Raslila, childhood pastimes and Raslila in Vrindavan. But Govardhan Hill is even superior to Vrindavan because of all the confidential pastimes that happen in Govardhan Hill, and Krishna lifted the hill. But Radhakund is even superior to Govardhan because of all the most confidential pastimes that happened at Radhakund, and Radhakund represents the liquefied form of Radharani's love for Krishna and Krishna's love for Radharani. So it is very highly valued as the supreme abode of any places. So in this verse, is saying it is so great that attaining Radhakund is very, very difficult and it's very rarely achieved by devotees, even by the great devotees. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that even Narad Muni has difficulty attaining Radhakund. It's so sacred and so rare, so rarely obtained. So those of us who have been there, who have access to it, are very, very fortunate to have had that access. So I'm just going to stop here. I just wanted to give you an idea of how valued Radhakund is by Lord Krishna. Okay. So then, let's see. The next step was the Aarti. Let me see if I can get the sequence. Okay, so we did that. Now we're going to talk about the appearance of Radhakund, just a very brief. So again, you all know that there was a demon by the name of Arishtasur who came in the form of a bull and attacked Krishna. And Krishna very easily, actually very almost nonchalantly, killed him, but not only killed him, he literally lifted him first by his horns and slammed him on the ground. And then picked him up by his legs and started picking him up and slamming him just like a wet rag by a washerman is slammed on the ground or on a piece of wood to clean it. Basically, he was trying to completely destroy Arishtasur's pride. Anyway, so after that, he came to where Radharani and the gopis were sitting, and gopis knew this is what he has done. So as soon as he started to approach Radharani, she said, no, stay away, stop, stay away from us. And Krishna said, what are you talking about? Why? And she said, another Sakhi said the same thing, that you are an offender, you are a sinner. You cannot come near us. Now you're contaminated. And he said, what are you talking about? And they said, you just killed a cow. So Krishna, first of all, it's not even a cow, it was a bull. Second of all, it was a demon, and you all know that. So why are you giving me a hard time? And they said, no hard time. This is the fact. Don't come near us, you're contaminated. So Krishna said, okay, fine, then how do I purify myself? And they said, well, you have to go and bathe in all the holy rivers of the world. Of the three worlds, actually, they said. So go do that, then you come back. And Krishna put his hands on his waist, like in a challenging position. I said, what do you mean I have to go all these places? I'll just call all the places here. I'm going to call all the holy places and all the holy rivers right here. And as soon as he said that, they all showed up in personified forms. They offered their obeisances to Krishna and asked how they can serve him. So Krishna dug a hole with his heel and said, please kindly fill this hole with your holy waters. So all of them almost immediately filled the hole with their waters. And Krishna said to Radharani and the Sakhis, fine, it's all here. I'm going to take my bath. So he took his bath and he came out. And Radharani and the Sakhi said, "Fine, now you're not contaminated. Your contamination is gone. You can come to us." I said, "What do you mean I can come to you? You are contaminated. I'm not coming to you." And they said, "What? How are we contaminated?" And he said, "Because you accused me falsely, therefore now you're contaminated. I want to come to you." They said, "Well, wait a minute. You can't turn things around like that. But anyway, so what do we do?" And he said, "You can come and take a bath in my kund and you'll be purified, and then you can come to me." And they said, "Why do we have to come to your kund? We make our own kund." And very quickly, some gopis started to dig a hole with they broke the bangles, they started dig a hole with that, and the rest of them lined up from where now Radha Kund is to Manasi Ganga. And they had buckets, and they decided to bring one bucket at a time, water in the kund. And they started doing that. And Krishna said, "Look, this is too slow. It's going to take you ages to do this. So why don't you listen to me and allow these holy rivers to fill your hole as well?" And they said, no, we can do it ourselves. But Krishna said, "Look, listen to some reasons. It will take too long. Please allow them." So the head of the holy rivers came out, offered his obeisances, and said, "Please, we will be extremely honored if you'd kindly allow us to serve you in this way." So Radharani's heart melted, and she said, "Okay, fine." So all the holy rivers filled the hole with that. And then also there was a break between the boundary between Shamkund and now it's going to be Radhakund, and the water from Shamkund started flowing into the Radhakund. Very soon it was filled. The gopis took their bath, and then they had their jam session or dance session, if you want to call it. That's how Radhakund and Shamkund appeared. Again, I've talked in very, very brief, probably lost all the nectar of the pastime, but I don't have time to get into the details. So this is how Radhakund appeared. Now, so Radhakund has now appeared and has also appeared, I hope, in all your homes when I share the screen. Also, as I said, I have sent you an email with a picture of Radhakund Shamkund. And if you would prefer to use that, you can do that. Otherwise, I'll share the screen and make it large. So hopefully you can see Radhakund Shamkund ki jai.
Jai.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to do Aarti. And so I'll stand up, and I don't know if you can still see me. I'm just doing Achman. I'm going to blow my conch shell. I'm just lighting the lamp now. Okay, the lamp is now lit. Just purifying it. And if you wish, you can stand. And Sonam, if you don't mind singing Hare Krishna Mahamantra while we do the Aarti.
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radhe, Jaya Radha Gopinath Radhe, Jaya Radha Giridhari Radhe, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaura Haribol, Nitai Gaura Haribol.
Thank you, Sonam. And here is
Hare Krishna.
power for you to smell of you. And I hope you got the arti, otherwise you can take one more time. Hare Krishna. So now, if you have set it so that you can do circumambulation of the Radha Kund Shyam Kund, what I did was I have a laptop that I'm using, and I also put the picture on my cell phone. It is on a table that I'm going to use to circumambulate. I hope you can all do the same thing. Let me know when you're ready to do that. Somebody say, yes, we are ready.
Yes, Prabhu, ready.
Prabhuji, we are.
So, Sona, if you don't mind, keep chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and we'll circumambulate 4 times.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Sonam. Vivo.
Prabhuji, I'm not sure if you wanted me to do the Jai Dhwani or not.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if I had to do it
That's
or
okay.
not.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
Om Vishnupad Pratkacharya Ashtachar Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Madhav Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Shyama Sundar Ki Jai. Krishna Balram Ki Jai. Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani Prabhu Sudarshan Ki Jai. Shri Narsinghadev Bhagwan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Radha Kund Sham Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Dwarkapuri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. All glories to the Vaishnav devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I can stop sharing the screen. And I can see all of you. So I hope it was not too awkward and that everyone was able to participate. Were there any issues or any awkwardness with how we are trying to do it?
It was fine, Prabhu.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so let's.
It was a quick virtual Vrindavan trip.
Yes. And that's what I want to do. So actually, I may as well talk about this. The way to celebrate Radhakund appearance is actually, and I'm not asking you to do this, but actually, if you're not in Vrindavan, then be mentally there. Actually, stay up until 12:30, midnight, that is, and mentally take a bath. It's kind of interesting because physically we're not supposed to do that, but mentally we can do that. And actually, we'll do that just now in a couple of minutes. And the way we were taught to do is go to Radhakund and Radhakund Shamkund and take chanting beads and take them out of the bag and dip them in the holy water of Radhakund. And it's totally, immersed, take it out, and then sprinkle the water on your head. And that's the bath. Because we do not want our feet to touch the water, holy water. So in a second, in a minute, maybe we'll do that before we move on to the next part of the program. And so that's one thing. Second thing, obviously, is to whatever vows you have taken to kind of repeat that and then chant as much as we can. And so we've done the rest of it. Now we're going to do the mentally take our bead out of the bag and mentally dip it in the holy water of Radhakund and then sprinkling it all over head. So again, if you want to just close your eyes, just imagine you're doing that, visualize, and let's get the benefit of celebrating Radhakund appearance day. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right. So let's see what was the next step on that. So we've done that. And that. Okay. So as you know, today is also called Bahula Ashtami. A lot of people confuse that it's one and the same thing. I'm sure you already know, so I'm just going to repeat what you already know, and that is not the case. So actually, there is a Bahula one in Vrindavan, or in the Braj Dham, I should say, and the story goes that there was a cow in the forest grazing, and let me just mute everyone, please. Okay, so she was grazing and she encountered a lion or tiger, whatever. And he said, well, Mahaprasad Govinda, he started singing as soon as he saw the cow. So cow understood what he's trying to do, and she was afraid. So she requested him that, my dear sir, I have a very, very young calf, and I serve an old Brahmin. They're expecting me to come back to them, and my calf is expecting me to feed him. So please, can you allow me to just go there, tell my master what's going to happen, and feed my calf, and I promise I'll come back to you. Then you can eat me. So for some reason, Krishna's inspiration, I suppose, the lion or the tiger agreed and let the cow go. So cow went back her home, and she started feeding her calf. But as she was feeding it, she was crying. So the old Brahmin noticed, and he asked her, what happened? What's the matter? So she explained the whole story to him. When they heard that, both the Brahmin and the calf said, no, mother, we will go in your place. Or sorry, each one of them said, I will go in your place and be the food for the lion. You stay here. The Brahmin said, look, I'm an old man. I got no dependents. I got nobody with me. Who will care if I give up my life? You have a small calf to take care of, so you stay here. The calf said, no, I cannot allow you, my master, to do that when I'm here, and I will go and offer myself to the lion. All three of them argued with each other, and finally they said, okay, we'll all go. So they all showed up in front of the lion, and they said, eat me. One person said. Second said, no, eat me. Third said, no, eat me. And so they were all offering themselves to the lion in place of the other two. So lion was now confused. He was thinking, maybe I'll eat all of them, or how should I choose? And Krishna appeared when he saw what was going on. So he appeared, and he said, I'm very pleased with the attitude all three of you have shown. I said to the lion, you'll get immense benefit if you let all of them go. So the lion wasn't going to argue with Lord Krishna, especially when he's saying he'll get all sorts of benefit. So he allowed all three of them to go. And so, of course, they did. And that's when this pastime became very famous. So actually, near Bahulavan, now still I guess, statues of the Brahmin and the cow and the calf. Next time you go to Braj Dham, please take the time to visit that. So that just happened to happen on this particular day. So two separate independent events happen on this day. So they're celebrated together, but they are two different events. That's all I had to say about that particular pastime. If anybody has any comments or...
I have a question.
ਹਾਂਜੀ.
So did it happen during Dwapar time, Dwapar Yuga time, or this is in Kala Yuga time story?
Treta Yuga.
Okay, so somebody saying Treta Yuga. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure which year it happened.
Because you said Krishna appeared, right?
Well,
So I was...
Krishna appeared just like he can appear today. So it's not like Krishna walked in because he was already there. He appeared as Krishna. He can appear in any yuga. So maybe I'm confusing you. It wasn't like he was there, he just walked in. He appeared as he can appear anywhere. He appeared to many devotees, like not that long ago.
Okay.
He appeared to Srila Prabhupada as he was traveling to our boat, right? So he appeared in that sense. At least that's how I understood it. If
Thank
anybody
you.
knows better, then by all means, let me know.
Prabhuji, I always had this question that what is the significance of this Baula Ashtami pastime with regards to our spiritual lives?
Oh, this is the excuse me. The the significance is how a devotee is willing to sacrifice whatever for another devotee or for a dear one. So the life of a totally selfless life as opposed to selfish life. So it's a lesson for us that if we are willing to sacrifice ourselves for the sake of another person that we love, Krishna is so pleased he can appear himself and bless all of us. So that's basically the lesson from this particular passage.
But Prabhuji, I always had this confusion that on the other hand, when Bharat Maharaj had this attachment or the same sort of feeling to save the deer, so we say that was wrong, right? That was an attachment, an obligation. He was trying to save him rather than depending upon Krishna, that Krishna is there to save him.
Okay, so I see your point. Your point is Bharat Maharaj also got attached to the deer, so thinking about him all the time. But such a huge difference. He got totally attached to the deer and constantly started meditating upon the deer. So, and that was the difference. Making sacrifice for somebody you love is not the same thing as constantly meditating upon that person or entity, which was the mistake that Bharat was making. Even as he was dying, he was constantly worried about and thinking about the deer. So, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejit anta kalevaram. That verse from Bhagavad Gita 8.6 applies. And that's why he took another birth. But these people are simply willing to sacrifice their life for the sake of someone they love. Totally different scenario.
So sacrificing for someone you love it's okay, but considering oneself master of somebody, that it's my duty to save him and then keep thinking about them is wrong, right?
The meditating part is the real wrong.
Okay.
Right? So,
thank you.
and like the master part also is correct, because you're saying, if I don't care for him, who will?
Who will, yeah.
Faith in Krishna. So wrong on both counts.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Okay, then I'll move to the regular program. I'm sorry, it took a little longer than I thought it would, but I thought it was very important that we do on this particular occasion, because otherwise we don't get the opportunity to do this. And especially the meditation on Radhaka is very, very important for tonight. Okay. All right. So let's get started. And excuse me. Actually, I just thought of something. Two points actually. One is that there's a particular pastime of Radharani that I heard recently only, and I liked it so much I thought I'll share it with you, even though it may not be totally in the context. But because this is also Kartik month, and the month of Kartik, you know why it's called Kartik, right? Everybody? Anybody wants to tell me why it's called Kartik?
The daughter
Because
of
Kirtida,
sorry.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so Radharani is the daughter of Kirtida. Therefore, Kirtika, and Kirtika becomes Kartik. So this is the month of Radharani. So this has to do with Radharani's love for Krishna. It talks about when when Krishna had moved to Mathura, Radharani and everyone else in Vrindavan was terribly missing Lord Krishna. So one day Radharani was so upset, she called Lalita and said, "Can you please bring me some poison?" And Lalita said, "What will you do with the poison?" She said, "I can't live anymore. Enough, too much pain after separation. So I'm going to drink the poison and give my life." And Lalita started laughing. And Radharani said, "Well, why are you laughing? What's so funny about me wanting to take poison?" And she said, "Radha, you can drink all the poison you want. Nothing will happen." She said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You have drank so much nectar from the lips of Lord Krishna. And you are so much always meditating upon him that the nectar keeps pouring upon you. Your body is so nectarian, no poison can have effect. So it's useless." And she said, "Well, no, I need to do that and give up my life. I don't want this body anymore." So jokingly, Lalita said, "Okay, fine. If we do that, then what should we do with your body?" And Radharani said, "Well, I'm glad you asked. So first of all, do not burn it. And give it jal samadhi, which means let it float in the water." Lalita said, "Why?" She said, "Because I want to make sure that when Krishna returns, my arms are there to embrace him." And she said, "But you have to worry about where you're going to leave me. So put me on a tamal tree, my body on tamal tree." She said, "Why tamal tree?" And Radharani said, "Because tamal tree is same color as Krishna. So I'll have the feeling that I'm constantly embracing Krishna." So Lalita said, "But the problem is all the crows and other birds, eagles and all that, they'll come and eat your body. There'll be nothing left." And Radharani said, "Yeah, that's a good point. Make sure that my eyes are protected. Even if they eat away all the limbs of my body, make sure my eyes are protected." And Lalita said, "Why?" Radharani said, "Because then I can see Krishna coming to me. And if I can just do that, what else can I ask for?" So I just got reminded of that particular pastime. So sweet. Why Radharani is so special to Krishna with feelings like that. It's like we can't even think like that. And there she is offering to do that. So Radharani ki jai, Kartik Mas ki jai. Okay, so let's move on to the other topics. Now, one other thing, sorry. Next Thursday is Diwali. In Vancouver also is Diwali, right, Madhu Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. So I think everybody does puja at home. So we may have a conflict with your puja and then other celebrations you do and this program. So I thought maybe we should cancel the program next week and then continue the week after. Take it from wherever we left. So that way you don't have to worry about, मैं इधर जाऊं कि मैं उधर जाऊं, which way should I go? So it just might be easier. Okay? Okay with everyone?
Yep.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Okay. So what we're going to do is, as you know, we had talked about, excuse me, Sandipan Muni asking Krishna to bring his son, who had disappeared some time ago, back to him. And Krishna had done that. So now, after Kurukshetra, which is what we talked about last week, Lord Balram, everybody basically went back to Dwarka. And one day, Lord Balram and Lord Krishna went to Vasudeva and Devaki, their palace, or their part of the palace, to offer them respects. And they went there, they bowed down, they touched their feet, and of course, Vasudeva and Devaki greeted them with great degree of affection. But you may recall last week we were talking about while they were in Kurukshetra, all these sages like Narad Muni, etc., had come and glorified Krishna like anything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, Vasudeva and Devaki had seen Krishna also in his 400 form, 400 Vishnu form. So they knew, but they had been reminded by the sages. So they said to Krishna, you're not my son. Actually, said to both of them, you're not my sons. You're both supreme personalities of Godhead. And they started glorifying both Krishna and Balaram. And again repeated after glorifying them that, no, you're not my sons. You're the creator of this whole world, whole material world, spiritual world, everything. And he actually, Vasudeva fell down at the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. And then he said, please, he started begging. He said, please, my dear Krishna and Balaram, somehow do something. So I forget that you are my son in any way. You just, God, let me serve you. But Lord Krishna said, no, that can't happen. And he basically did his magic and restored the conception that they really were Vasudeva's sons. Excuse me. And, basically gave them instructions as well. And that really helped Vasudeva. And he basically became normal, peaceful. Then Mother Devaki was there. She started praising Krishna and Balaram. And then she said, remember how you retrieved your teacher Sandipani Muni's son? And she said, I have this great desire that my 6 sons had been killed by my brother Kansa. And this is my great desire to see them again. So can you please bring my sons back? And I just want to see them once. And she started crying. So when they heard her crying like that and begging them to bring her sons, they said, okay, we'll do that. And they went straight to the planet of Sutal. Now, who has been living in Sutal? Who was sent to Sutal? Anybody? Okay, let me give you another clue.
Bali Maharaj.
Bali Maharaj.
Bali Maharaj is living there, yes. So he went straight to Bali Maharaj in Sutal. Of course, Lord Bali Maharaj immediately stood up and offered great honor to Krishna and Balaram, offered his prayers and nice reception, and asked how he may serve them. And they said, well, here's the story. So we are here to take our 6 sons back. 6 brothers back. And so I can bring them back to my mother, our mother. And so he quickly brought the 6 sons back, and Krishna and Balaram took them and came back to Dwarka, presented the 6 sons to Mother Devaki. And she saw them, and she's like, all her motherly affection came out. It's described in Bhagavatam that her milk was coming out like anything, like a rain shower, and she was so overjoyed. She actually fed them her breast milk, all 6 of them, and of course, now this was no ordinary milk. This milk was a remnant, a prasadam of Krishna, because Krishna had sucked the same breasts. So now they were drinking prasadam. It's not just Mahaprasadam directly from Krishna. So of course, immediately after this incidents, they regained their original form of demigods, went back to heaven, and from there they were promoted to Golok Vrindavan. Now, I'm assuming that all of you know the background of this story of the 6 sons, but just very quickly, let me repeat it just in case there's somebody who's not quite clear on what the story is. So as you know, there's a son of Brahma. His name is Marichi. He had 6 sons. And one time what happened was Lord Brahma got very attracted to Mother Saraswati, who's his own daughter. And started chasing her with a sexual desire. And when people saw that, they were shocked. But these 6 sons of Marichi, they thought it was really funny. They started laughing at him. The grandsire, the grandfather is acting like this. So Lord Brahma got very angry and he cursed them to take birth in a demon family. Now here the story gets a little confusing because there are 2 versions. One is that They were born as the grandsons of Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu's son was a demon by the name of Kalnemi. Another version is that they were sons of Hiranyakashipu, and they took another birth as sons of another demon by the name of Kalnemi. Either way, what happened was that Hiranyakashipu found out that these 6 children were worshipping Lord Brahma. They were meditating upon Lord Brahma in like very serious meditation, austerities and all that. And Lord Brahma had appeared to them and asked for benediction, and they had asked them for protection from death, according to the prayer. So basically, again, they went through the same thing that Hiranyakashipu had gone through. And he said, well, okay, fine. You will not die from any demigod. And that's all I can give you. So Hiranyakashipu found out about all this, and he said, how dare you worship Brahma without letting me know, without my permission? You know, I feel no affection for you, and I'm going to curse you that your father will kill you in your next birth. That's it. And he said, in your next life, you will be born from the womb of Devaki. And your father Kalnemi will be born as Kansa. And that very Kansa will be your murderer. He'll kill you. So as you know, in due course, they were born in the womb of Mother Devaki. Kalnemi was born as Kansa, who became the brother of Devaki. And you know the rest of the story, how he killed the 6 sons of Devaki. So anyway, that's the background, and that's basically what happened. And that Devaki asked, and Krishna complied and brought them back temporarily, which satisfied Devaki's desire to see her sons. And that's the end of that particular pastime. So I'm going to pause for a second and see if you have any questions or comments before I move to the next chapter. Anyone? Okay. So next chapter talks about Arjun's wedding to Subhadra. So basically what happened was Parikshit Maharaj said to Shukadeva Goswami, you know, I would like to hear about the marriage of my grandmother, Subhadra. So can you please give some details? So Shukadeva Goswami said, sure. And he said, what happened was that once Arjuna went on a pilgrimage, and as he was touring on his pilgrimage, he heard that Lord Balaram intended to give his sister Subhadra's hand in marriage to Duryodhana. And Lord Balaram was going to do that even though nobody in the family, not Krishna, not Vasudeva, not Devaki, approved of that marriage. So Arjuna said, wait a minute, I'm going to kidnap Subhadra and I'm going to marry her myself. So what Arjuna did was he disguised himself as a, what's the word? Mendicant, you know, a beggar, mendicant Brahmin, you know, renunciant, if you want to use the word. And as a renunciant or as a mendicant, he went to Dwarka, totally disguised. And he was so well disguised that even Lord Balaram, or anybody for that matter, resident of Dwarka, recognized Arjun, that is Arjun. And because he was dressed like a renunciant, you know, sadhu, everybody offered him a lot of respect. And actually one day, Lord Balaram himself, you know, invited Arjun for dinner at his home. So like Lord Balaram has effectively, presumably, no clue that this is Arjun. And so Arjun showed up. He's still dressed as a renunciant. And I guess they were the, you know, not those, there were no dining tables, sitting on the floor having their dinner. And there he saw Subhadra. And like instant attraction. It's just so beautiful. So immediately Arjun said, I made the right decision, having this desire to marry her. And as you know, Arjun was himself extremely handsome person. So Mother Subhadra saw him, and immediately she wanted to have him as her husband. She said to herself, I know why my brother wants me to marry this Duryodhan. I would prefer to marry this man. He's so attractive. As they say in Hindi, कि आग दोनों तरफ बराबर लग गई. They both were very much attracted to each other. Anyway, a few days later, Subhadra left the palace on a chariot to participate in a festival that was going on in a temple. And that was the opportunity for Arjun. He came on his chariot, abducted Subhadra right in front of everybody else, and took off. So, of course, the Yadavas chased him. He defeated them all and continued to go. Lord Balaram heard that. He was very upset, extremely angry. He wanted to kill Arjun right away. But Krishna came and he pacified Lord Balaram, convinced him that Arjun is the right person for Subhadra, and then said, by the way, Subhadra also wanted to marry Arjun. So at that point, Lord Balaram really loved his sister Subhadra. So he became a little calm, and actually he became joyful when he heard that. Okay, fine. And then he got Arjun and Subhadra together, gave them proper send-off, and all sorts of gifts and all that, and their marriage happened. Any questions on that before I change the topic again? Okay, all right. Now Sridhar Goswami talks about something totally different. This is talking about a Brahman devotee of Lord Krishna whose name was Shrutadev. Shrutadev. He lived in the city of Mithila. Why is Mithila a very popular city? Was Mithila so famous? Correct. Correct. Sita Maya was there. Her father Janak was from Mithila. Anyway, so that city. A very, very poor Brahmin. Like he barely made enough money to feed himself and his family. But, one of those devotees who are always satisfied with whatever they get. It's all Krishna's mercy. And they're simply busy performing their devotional service. Also, the king of Mithila was a king by the name of Bahulashva. Now, he's very famous for, anybody knows why he's so famous? So we'll talk about why he's so famous in a second. Anyway, so he was also, just like King Janak, very detached from his kingdom, from his wealth, from his opulence. Just he was busy being a devotee, even though he was a king. So the Bahulash and Shrutadev, they both were wonderful, pure devotees of Krishna. So Sukadeva Goswami said Krishna was so pleased with their devotion of both of them that he decided to visit Mithila. And it took a lot of very learned sages like Narad Muni, Vyasadeva, etc. On his chariot, and he went to Mithila. So of course, when people of Mithila heard that Lord Krishna is arriving with all these sages, they all came out. A great welcome to Lord Krishna and his entourage. They offered their obeisances. They greeted them very nicely and offered many, many gifts to everyone. Now, both Bahulashva and Shrutev came in the front, and simultaneously they said, my dear Lord, we would like you to visit our home. So Lord said, fine. And he expanded himself into two. And one went to Shrutev's house, other went to Bahulashva's house. And of course, in both houses, he was worshipped very nicely, very suitably. Wonderful prayers were offered to him. They both washed his feet and sprinkled themselves on their head, and their family members, their heads, with the wash water. And then they said, my dear Lord, please stay with us for a few days. Don't just go today. Go away, go back today. And they were so sincere and so loving. Krishna agreed. So he stayed in the house for a few days. Again, two forms of Krishna, staying in two separate houses, but simultaneously. Lord Krishna, of course, introduced all the sages, praised them as wonderful brahmanas and how glorified they are in general. And he said to Shrutadev, Shrutadev, these sages have come especially just to bless you. And he said, one can become gradually purified just by seeing or touching or worshipping the temple deities. But they have to do this. Same thing with places of pilgrimage or holy rivers. You have to go there, touch it many, many times before you're purified. But one can achieve the same result immediately simply by receiving a glance of the exalted devotees. Which reminded me of a very wonderful bhajan in the praise of the Vaishnavas by Narottam Das Thakur, when he says, Gangara parasya hoile paschate pavan, darshane pavitra karo saito margo. That we have to take bath in Ganga many, many times before we are purified. But simply by being seen by a devotee or seeing a devotee, we are purified. That's how powerful the devotees are. And he said, you should also know that the Brahmanas, the Vaishnava Brahmins, are dearer to me than my own 400 folk. He said, therefore, you should serve and worship these Vaishnava Brahmins with the same faith that you have in me. And if you do so, you basically you'll be basically worshiping me directly, which you cannot do otherwise. In other words, he's saying, you got to worship me through a devotee. Now, of course, the highest devotee is Radharani, so we serve Krishna through Radharani. But because we don't have direct access to her, we go to Lord Chaitanya. Because you don't have direct access to him, we go to Lord Nityanand. Because you don't have direct access to him, we go to Nityanand's expansion, our Guru. And that's the process to serve Krishna. So basically, Lord Krishna is describing that process to, again, same thing is happening at Bahulashwa's house. So it's instructing both Bahulashwa and Shrutadev in this manner. So that, of course, now the time to go was there. So they both devotees worship Lord Krishna and the Vaishnava sages with him very nicely. And just from doing that, they attain the ultimate destination. Now, I said I'll tell you in a minute why Bahulashwa is famous. So there's a book called The Demons in Vrindavan Leela. That book describes the conversation between Lord Krishna and Bahulashwa, the King Bahulashwa. Where King Bahulashwa asks who all these demons were in your Leela, Vrindavan Leela. So Lord Krishna is explaining the background, previous life or lives of all these demons. So that's the famous dialogue between Lord Krishna and King Bahulashwa. So that's his claim to fame. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, then I'll keep going. Now, a very famous but wonderful pastime of Lord Shiva getting into trouble by giving benediction to a demon called Vrkasur. He's also known as Bhasmasur, but in Bhagavatam, the name Vrkasur is used, so I'm going to use that name. So basically, the way Shukdev Goswami got to that story or that pastime is that Parikshit Maharaj asked a very interesting question. He said, I'm puzzled by something, so please explain to me. So Shukdev Goswami looked at him quizzically, what's your puzzle, man? And Parikshit Maharaj said, how is it that Lord Vishnu possesses all the opulences and Lord Shiva lives in poverty on a mountaintop, in a cave? Yet, the devotees of Lord Vishnu are generally speaking very poor. But the devotees of Lord Shiva, they attain great amount of wealth. So he said, to me, the results attained by the worshippers of Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva appear contrary to what one would expect. We'd expect the poor man's or poor lord's devotees to be poor, and the opulent lord's devotees to be opulent. But here we see the opposite. So can you please explain, how that happens? Is the question clear? Why Parikshit Maharaj was confused? Okay, because if the question is not clear, the pastime will not make sense. Okay, so Shukdev Goswami said, Well, understand, Lord Shiva is always united with his material energy. Sorry, with his personal energy, which is material energy. So, who's the material energy in the context of Lord Shiva? Anybody?
Parvati ji.
Parvati, yes, Mother Parvati, his wife or Mother Durga, whatever name you want to use, which is an expansion of Mother Parvati. She's the material nature and she's his wife. So she's always with him. Therefore, he's able to grant material benedictions with no issues. So somebody wants something material, his Ashutosh, which is easily pleased, and he just gives it without much consideration. Sometimes with no consideration, he just does it. But Lord Vishnu is transcendental to the modes of material nature. So his devotees also become transcendental. The real fruit of worshipping Lord Vishnu is the transcendental knowledge which leads to liberation, and that's what his devotees are looking for. So therefore, they get that, something that's transcendental. Lord Shiva's devotees, they want something material, they get something material. That kind of explains the reason. And then Shukadeva Goswami said, you know what, I just remembered something else. He said, remember when Yudhishthira Maharaj was doing Ashwamedh Yajna and Krishna had gone there? And Yudhishthira asked a very similar question from Lord Krishna. And then Krishna responded in a very famous verse. I think it's chapter 88 for sure, but verse 8, I think. Yeah, verse 8. And there says, very famous verse. It says, Yasyaham anugrahanami harishyet dhanam shanam. Tato adhanam tejanti asya swajana dukh dukhitam. Which means when I feel special mercy, or when I give special mercy to somebody, I gradually take away all his opulence and his wealth. Shanai means gradually. Tad dhanam, his wealth, his opulence. Harishya means I take it away. So the person on whom I do special anugraha, mercy or compassion, I take away gradually his wealth and his opulence. Why do I do that? Because then this poor man's children, wife, and other relatives abandon him because he got nothing to give. And in that way, he suffers one distress after another. And then in the very next verse, Krishna is saying, when this man, or this person, especially because it could be man or woman, this person again tries to acquire wealth in order to win back his family's and friends' favor, I laughed at this word. Krishna says, I mercifully frustrate him so that he becomes disgusted with any fruity work, any karma, and befriends my devotees. And at that time, I bestow my special mercy on this person so that he can become freed from the bondage of material life and attain to Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavana. So I'm going to pause for a second before I explain the purport, because the purport is so important that I thought I'll mention some of the purport. But is the point clear? The point that I'm trying to do, is that clear? Before I explain further by, how Prabhupada says some other things in support of this particular verse. So is it clear what I'm talking about? Okay, all right. So Prabhupada says that just because somebody is a devotee of Krishna, even a pure devotee of Krishna, it doesn't mean he or she will not experience, happiness and distress, problems and pain and pleasure. But their distress, their happiness is not a consequence of their karma, but rather is an incidental byproduct of their loving reciprocation with the Lord. And Prabhupada says that Rupa Goswami actually expresses even further that a devotee loses, I should say. Devotee loses his karmas. And he talks about all four kinds of karmas. Does anybody know the four types of karmas? Anybody? What are the 4 types of karmas?
Are we talking about sukarma, vikarma, and akarma?
No. That's 3 types of
Okay.
karmas. Karma, maybe if that's not karma is what I mean. So one is called aprarabdha, which means unmanifested. Second is prarabdha, which means manifested. So your destiny is your prarabdha. That's the second kind. Third kind is called khuta, which means it's just about to manifest, but it's not there yet. And fourth kind is called bija, which are barely manifesting. So they become your tendencies. So he said, devotional service destroys all these 4 types of karmas. We were, as you know, we're doing Gopi Geet this. Well, I hope you're doing Gopi Geet every day. And the 10th verse in that sequence says, Pranat Dehinam Papukarshanam, which means when we offer our obeisances to Krishna, he kills all the pap, all the sinful reactions. In Brahma Samhita, text 54, Lord Brahma is saying, Karmani nidhati kintucha bhakti bhaja. By the performance of devotional service, all the karmas, all 4 types of karmas are finished. Of course, it happens gradually. So actually, another wonderful example is given by Prabhupada. He says, just like a lotus flower gradually loses its petals. They don't all fall off at the same time. You lose one, then you lose second one, the third one. Similarly, gradually, a person who takes shelter of the Lord loses his karmic reactions. They're destroyed gradually, not all at the same time. Excuse me. There's another Upanishad. It's called Gopal Tapani. It says devotional service how do you say? Devotional service destroys gradually. Actually, no, I think the word it uses dissolves. That's right. That's why I get this mixed up. Yes, Gopal Tapani says devotional service dissolves all karmas. Which is basically the same thing, but that's the word they use. I thought that was an interesting term. So it's not that the devotee loses his or her material body or the material situation. They're still in the material world. They may still have family, job, etc., etc. But that happens only until one becomes pure devotee. So it's a, remember I keep saying gradual. So there's a gradation, there's a gradual progress from a pure karmi to pure devotee. And we're all somewhere in the middle somewhere. So, but what Gopal Tapani's Upanishad says is that in every stage of devotion, so it is ours, which is very little pure, a lot of impure, or anything between the 2 spectrums, purely karmi to pure devotee, in every stage of that devotion, the Lord is watching over us being the devotees, and gradually eliminating the karma. So therefore, the conclusion is that despite the fact that the devotee may feel both happiness and distress, and that experience may resemble the ordinary karmic process or karmic reaction, in fact, those happiness and distress are given by the Lord directly. So let me repeat that. In the case of devotees, the karmic, so what appears to be karmic reaction in terms of happiness and distress is actually not from the karmic reactions, but given by the Lord directly. And a mature devotee would recognize that and consider the good and the bad conditions to be only superficial and take it as signs of guidance by the Lord. Because Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Suhradam Sarva Bhutana. He has this firm faith. Whatever is happening is for my good. So therefore, Lord is guiding me towards him gradually by putting me through these conditions. Well, there could be another question though. And the question could be that if the Lord really cares, if he really is so compassionate to his devotees, why does he expose them to special suffering? Like some of the pure devotees have gone through some serious suffering. Like Prahlad Maharaj. We can't even imagine the suffering he went at the age of 5. Dhruv Maharaj, can't even imagine how he was feeling and how he spent those 6 months, performing his austerities. Yudhishthira Maharaj, Kunti Devi, they suffered unbelievably, and they were all pure devotees. So why? So Prabhupada says that they compared Lord Krishna with a very affectionate father. Now, a father is sometimes very strict with the son or the daughter or the child, I should say. And no, you got to go to your room, study. No TV. You got to do your homework. You got to get good marks, all those kind of things. You can't play right now, on and on and on. But why is he doing that? He's doing that because the father loves the child. The child may feel he's being punished or she's being punished. But the father is simply showing his love because thinking long term. That so-called punishment is actually a genuine expression of love of the father for the children. Even if children don't understand that, they don't agree, they feel bad and they feel angry and rebellious, but father is simply being a loving father. Similarly, Lord Krishna is mercifully strict with us, with his devotees. Although sometimes, due to our immaturity, we may not understand that. And we may struggle to become qualified. But that's what Krishna is trying to do. He's trying to make us or turn us into a pure devotee by taking us through this difficult situation. You may recall from Canto 1, when when Bhishma Pitama is lying on the bed of arrows after the battle of Kurukshetra. And Yudhishthira goes to him on the advice of Lord Krishna, and immediately upon seeing the face of Yudhishthira Maharaj, Bhishma Pitama says, and I'm going to quote a couple of verses. He says, Yet dharmasuto raja gada panir Vrkasur Krishnostri gandivam chapam suhat Krishnastato vipat. Then he said, Nahi asakar hai chitrajan puman veti vidhit satam yad vijigyasya yukta muhyanti kavyopihi. That means is that it's amazing. It's amazing how the time can have influence on anything and everything. He said, whatever time does is irreversible. Otherwise, how do you explain someone like you, King Yudhishthira? You can go through so many reverses in life. And it's not just you who's the son of Yamaraj or Dharmaraj. Your brother Bhima, the great fighter with a club, the strength of 10,000 elephants. A great archer like Arjun, with his mighty bow, Gandiv. And above all, the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself is your direct well-wisher. And he loves you so much that he would find any excuse to come visit you guys and leave his wife in Dwarka. How can he go through so many reversals? And you all know what reversals the Pandavas went through. And then he said, in the next verse, he said, my dear king, he addresses Yudhishthira as Rajan, my dear king, no one can know the plan of Lord Krishna. No one can know the plan of Krishna, what he has planned. And he said, listen, many, many great philosophers have tried to figure that out, what Krishna's plan is. And they all become totally bewildered. They've gone crazy trying to do that. So he says, don't even try to understand what Krishna's plan is. Just trust it. Just have this faith, whatever Krishna is doing for you is for our good. And live your life with that faith through all the happiness and distresses that you feel as pleasure and pain. They're not from the karmic reactions. They are a mercy of Krishna. And he said there's one other difference between the effects of karmic reaction and effect of what Krishna's plan is. Actually, he says it's a very significant difference. So understand that. He said the material happiness and material distress that's coming from karma leaves a subtle residue in the form of more karmas, which become the seed of your future entanglement in the material world. And the happiness and the distress or the enjoyment or the suffering, whatever word you want to use, they tend toward further degradation and they increase the danger of falling into the hellish oblivion of this material world. On the other hand, the happiness and distress generated from the desire of the Lord, the Supreme Lord Krishna, they leave no trace after their immediate purpose has been served. In other words, when that particular suffering or pleasure or happiness or distress has taken place, enjoyed or suffered, there's no further residue. There's no further residue. And therefore, that Vaishnava who understands this point, who has this reciprocation of faith in the Lord, has no danger of falling into the material world, into the hellish conditions, into the nescience of the material world. Nothing that he has to worry about. And he said the proof of that is that Yamraj told his servants, the Yamdutas, and I don't remember the verse, I just remember the translation, which says, my dear servants, please bring to me only those sinful persons who do not use their tongues to chant the name of Krishna, who do not use their tongues to use the, or rather to describe the qualities of Krishna, who don't use their tongue to discuss, to describe the pastimes of Krishna, whose hearts don't remember the lotus feet of Krishna, even once, and whose heads do not bow down even once before Lord Krishna. He says, please bring to me all those fools and rascals, but not the person who chants Krishna's name. And there's a warning to him. He says, you'll be in deep trouble if you do that. This was immediately after the pastime of Ajamil. So, the beloved devotees of the Lord don't consider any suffering as troublesome. Just accept it as something Krishna has mercifully imposed upon them. And they find that at the end of this suffering, unlimited pleasure, unlimited happiness is waiting for them. And again, Prabhupada uses an example. It's like, he says, sometimes you have eye trouble and you use an ointment on the eye, which stings, but very quickly it cures the eyes and removes the infection. It's the same thing. Excuse me. The other thing is that, we know the, how do I say it? We know that non-devotees are always watching the devotees and they want to, butt in, they want to include in the affairs. So when they see the devotees suffering like this, they become very happy and they stop interfering in the lives of the devotees and leaves them alone and they can continue to do this. And finally, Prabhupada explains that just imagine a situation when the devotees felt no pain, had no suffering, and they were always in comfortable situations. Prabhupada says, won't they become complacent? And if they become complacent, they may forget Lord Krishna, Or at the very least, they may never call for him because they're living a happy life. And then Krishna will have no reason to appear, Krishna and his incarnations will have no reason to appear in the material world. Like Lord Ramchandra, why would he come? Nobody's in difficulty. Lord Nrsingadev, why would he come? Prahlad is no difficulty. He's enjoying the life. So basically, Prabhupada says the Lord uses the excuse of protecting the devotees, Paritrana Sadhuna, to appear in the material world so that by his pastimes, he can leave lessons. Lessons for non-devotees and the devotees, of course, and somehow or the other attract the non-devotees, either by fear, because he's killing the demons and the miscreants, or by enjoying the pastime of protecting the devotees, or the pastime of battles that their lordships fight with the demons. Whatever reason, somehow or the other, he would like to attract these non-devotees or not pure devotees even to him so that they can become pure devotee. And the other thing is that Lord really wants to give pleasure to the devotees. If he doesn't come to the material world, how would his pure devotees enjoy his association, his pastime, etc.? And finally, Prabhupada quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti. He says, Vishwanath Chakravarti is saying that, look at it this way. It is only at the end of the night, when it's been so dark, that the dawn, the sunrise at dawn becomes so attractive. It's only during hot summer days or nights that cold water gives comfort for shower or bath. It is only during the cold winter months that warm shower is very pleasing. The lamplight appears attractive only in darkness, not in the middle of the afternoon, in the glaring light of the noontime sun. Only when somebody is really, really, really distressed by hunger that food tastes so good. The point Vishwanath Chakravarti is making is that it is to strengthen his devotees' mood of dependence upon him and the devotees' longing for him that the Lord arranges his devotee to go through some suffering. And therefore, after this suffering, when the Lord appears to deliver the devotee from this suffering, they show very special gratitude and appreciation for the appearance of the Lord, and the pleasure that the devotees feel is limitless, boundless. And it goes back to what Krishna is saying, that to Yudhishthira, that is, Yudhishthira, because I'm so difficult to worship, people generally avoid me. And instead they worship other deities like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, who are quickly satisfied. And they give material benedictions to these people. So people, the karmi people, materialistic people, they receive this, wonderful benedictions of kingly opulence from these deities, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, etc., and they become very arrogant, and they become puffed up, totally intoxicated with the pride, and they start neglecting their duties, and they even come to the point where they start to offend even the demigod who offered them a benediction. So I just realized that I'm getting a little late. I need 2 more minutes, please, if you don't mind.
Please go ahead, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
So Sukadeva Goswami starts to narrate this wonderful pastime of how Lord Shiva was put into great difficulty because he gave a benediction to this demon called Vrkasur. So what happened was that once this demon Vrkasur asked Narad Muni, which god is most easily satisfied? I don't have a lot of time. Who is easily satisfied? And Narad Muni knew what this guy's up to. So he said, go to Lord Shiva. his Ashutosh is very easily and very quickly satisfied. So, because he showed up at Kedarnath and started worshipping Lord Shiva. Now, a demon is a demon. So, what is his worship like? He's offering the pieces of his own flesh as oblations into fire dedicated to Lord Shiva. Like mode of ignorance. Anyway, but demon is supposed to be there. Anyway, so he's doing that. And one day once goes by, 2 days go by, 3 days goes by, 6 days go by, and continuously offering his flesh into the fire. Lord Shiva was not showing up. On the final day, seventh day, Vrkasur said to himself, enough, I can't wait anymore. I'm going to cut my head off and offer to Lord Shiva. What's the use of living if it doesn't show up? So he took his farsa, I don't know what you call him in English. It's a special kind of axe. Anyway, I was going to cut his head off, and Lord Shiva showed up right at that moment. And he came out of the sacrificial fire and stopped him and said, I'm happy to give you whatever benediction you want. And this is the demoniac mentality. Vrkasur says, may death come to whomever I touch upon the head with my hand. So in other words, if I touch anybody on his head with my hand, he should immediately die. So Lord Shiva was not very happy to hear this request, but he felt obligation to fulfill the request because he had given his word. So he said, Tathastu, so be it. Immediately before Lord Shiva could disappear or turn around, immediately Vrkasur said, my dear Lord Shiva, I'm going to test this benediction by putting my hand on your head. Lord Shiva knew that my benediction is true. So he was, Bhagavatam says, this is not my word. Bhagavatam says, terrified. Lord Shiva was terrified. And he started running for his life. And Vrkasur chasing him. The personality who just benedicted him is now being chased by this demon. And if that's not demoniac mentality, I don't know what is. Anyway, so Lord Shiva is running hard, and Vrkasur is running hard after him, and Lord Shiva ran to heaven. He went to almost the outer limits of the material universe, and Vrkasur is right there. Finally, Lord Shiva reached the planet of Shvetadvip, where Lord Vishnu resides. Now, Lord Vishnu saw this from far, what's going on, and of course, he knows everything. So immediately, Lord Vishnu disguised himself as a little brahmachari boy. Of course, whatever he does, he looks beautiful, very attractive. So very attractive, beautiful, young brahmachari. And he stood in the way of Vrkasur. And in a very sweet voice, he said, my dear Vrka, you look tired. Why don't you take rest for a while? Looks like you've been running for a while. And he said, if you feel we being him, are qualified to be heard by you, and if you feel you're qualified to hear what you have to say, please tell us, what is it that you're trying to do? What's your intention? Because he was so taken by the beauty of this boy, which is Lord Vishnu, he stopped and he revealed everything that had happened. How he got the benediction, now he was tested, and the Lord started laughing. Very innocently, but very sweetly started laughing. And he said, Vrkasur, ever since Lord Shiva was cursed by Daksha, Prajapati Daksha, he has actually become just like ghosts and pishachas. Don't trust his word. How can you trust a ghost or a pishach? You can't trust Lord Shiva's word either. You better test his benediction by putting your hand on your own head, just to make sure it works before you work so hard chasing Lord Shiva, who's running so fast. And because you got totally bewildered by Lord Vishnu's words, I said, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. And he touched his own head. Now, what do you think happened? Immediately, the head burst into a million pieces, and Vrkasur fell dead. And all the demigods who were watching, the sages who were watching, they started saying, Jai, 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 obeisances, well done. They were saying that Lord Shiva came back. He offered his obeisances to him and thanked him for saving his life that day. So it's 9:42. I'm sorry, I'm a little late. I'm going to stop here and see if you have any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So nice the way you put it, suppering up devotees and suppering up karmis. We heard, but you didn't get into that. You put it so perfectly, and quoting the example. I think sometimes always we see the devotees suffering, and always we are seeing nowadays more, right? Because of WhatsApp and message, we are hearing more. Maybe previously we are not there. We get a compassion and chant and all those things. So sometimes it comes to your mind, what's happening. It's not that you don't trust it, but you feel like that. And the way you put it, karmic reaction breeds again karmic, right? So there's a seed is there, and there were devotees doesn't leave a residue of any all the sin or those karmic, they are all burned when you to it devotional. Put it very comparative, both in different silos, and very nicely put it. Very thank you for that. And I think this is the best thing I could pick up from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, bro. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank
And Usha Mataji asked a question, just confirm that devotional service dissolves karmas, and the answer is yes. It's a direct quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Any other questions or comments?
In a Prabhuji, just want to add out to that one, karmas, like the question. In a Dhaneshwar, he in a Maharashtra is called also Krishna Avatar, or we don't, but that they believe it, because the kind of literature he did and kind of suffering he did, no person can do it. And he gives an example like a camphor, so the camphor burns, no residue is left out, right? And he gives that
Yes.
example like a devotee is all that papa, all that pap or whatever is there, he says it's just like evaporates like a camphor. He gives a very good example.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, thank you. That camphor example is very good. Anybody else? Okay, then. Happy Kartik to everyone, and happy Diwali to everyone. Enjoy your wonderful month of Kartik with as much devotional service as you can do, as we can do. Extra rounds, extra reading, anything that we can do that's over and above our normal routine.
God bless you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. God bless you as well. Okay, thanks so much. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpita. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Happy Diwali to you
Happy
all.
Diwali. Happy
Happy Diwali.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you. Happy Diwali to everyone.
Thank you, Sunana.
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Himani. To have you here. Sunana Mataji, I noticed that you had your in the background, Radhakund. That was really nice.
Yes, Prabhuji.
That was wonderful. Yeah. Very
Thank
nice.
you to you, Prabhuji. You only shared, so I put it as a background.
Oh, I'm glad. So that's great. That's wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
all. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.